Hey guys, coming me another movie for you guys, and this movie we're reviewing, I was interested to say the least about this movie. I didn't really know if it was necessary, but I was interested. I did really enjoy the first one, and the trailers definitely made me interested. But that movie is Zoolander 2. I have seen the first Zoolander. I never reviewed it for you guys, but if you guys saw my movie preview for February, you know that I did watch the first Zoolander. Like back in March when I was in Florida, I watched it then. But I never got a chance to review it. Really do love that movie. Probably one of the funniest comedies I've seen. I mean, there are so many great jokes in that movie. It's stupid, but it's meant to be. And that's really what works. And here, the trailers look really good. I was like, okay, maybe this could be a really good sequel because a lot of comedy sequels nowadays don't do very well and come across as very unnecessary. But the thing that made me most worried is that we had to wait so long for this movie. I'm like, we had to wait so long. Is this really going to be worth the wait? It's coming out in February. Is this really the time to do this? And I have to say, overall, after watching Zoolander 2 is really not all that great. It's really not worth the wait. It's really not that great of a sequel. There are some things I really do like about this movie that I don't think is as bad as everyone is saying, but it definitely is not as good as it could have been and definitely would have benefited a little bit more. But let's just get into the plot of Zoolander 2, which just from the plot you can tell it's kind of not uninspired, but just not really necessary. As we know, at the end of the first Zoolander, Derek Zoolander, and his wife, Matilda, they made that school for children who can't read right, as they called it, and who can't read good, like they called it. Well, that building is now collapsed. It has now killed his wife, and it also injured Hansel, who the building fell onto. We eventually find out, and Derek lost custody of his son, and basically they have both retired from modeling. They're now into exile pretty much, but then there is this basically this secret agent Valentina Valencia, who basically recruits these two to try to figure out why these pop singers are being murdered and what's happened to them and everything. And Derek also tries to take this as a way to find his son, and that basically is the plot of Zoolander 2. I don't know, the plot of this movie is very confusing. I can't really tell you what the actual plot is because there's just it's very convoluted, but that is basically the plot of Zoolander 2. Definitely not as good as the first plot to the first movie, which the plot to the first movie really is awesome when you think about it. But let's get to the cast here, because definitely one of the things that makes this movie not terrible is the cast, because the movie's not terrible. I'm not going to say this movie's one of the worst movies here, because it's not. At times it works because of the cast. The cast really do care about these roles. You can tell they really do like playing them, especially Ben Stiller as Derek Zoolander. By far one of Ben Stiller's best roles ever. I mean, Derek Zoolander is one of the most iconic roles Ben Stiller's ever done. You can tell that he really does love this character, and he really does want to make this character still work. And do I think this character still works? Yes. Does this character really do anything different in this movie? No, but I really didn't have a problem with it. I thought he worked still really well as Derek Zoolander. I liked his character overall. I didn't really find his character necessary, but he definitely seems like he's aged. I like seeing that with his character. I thought he did a good job, and I overall really did like Derek Zoolander in this movie. He really doesn't have anything that funny to do, but I thought overall he was good. I definitely enjoyed Derek Zoolander. Obviously, he's the thing that makes this movie, but he's not, I think, the thing that makes this movie. We'll get into the thing that makes this movie. Owen Wilson, however, as Hansel, I really don't think they use that well. I mean, he has this subplot where he goes to this group of, like, celebrities in this thing he called the orgy, and he literally just refers to it as orgy, like, we don't know their names, and there's some fun celebrity cameos that pop up in the movie, but just his character in general, I thought was just kind of underutilized here. Like, he's in the movie throughout the entire thing, but he really doesn't have anything that funny to say. It really felt very uninspired, and especially the stuff between Derek and Hansel. These two aren't getting along, but the chemistry is just not there, in my opinion. I don't really think they work that well together in this, and I'm sure Ben Stiller and Owen Wilson, they're still friends and everything, but me personally, I just didn't think they worked as well as they did in the first movie, so that really was a problem right off the bat. So these two, they do work well together. I just didn't think they worked as well as they did in the first movie, and that dynamic wasn't there as much, definitely. And I honestly, I'll get into really that. The thing that I think really works so well in this movie is Will Ferrell as Jacob and Mugatu. I mean, this is just such a great role. It's ridiculous. This is one of the reasons why Will Ferrell is such a great comedian. He's so funny in this movie. And everything with Jacobim is hilarious. I really think he had all the funniest lines in the movie. He had some really funny stuff here. And when it's eventually revealed what's going on, then I definitely really like. I was a bit worried that because we don't actually see him till the last act of this movie, which was the perfect time to see him. He's there for about 30 minutes of the movie, but you know what? I think it was the perfect time to see him. They perfectly showed his character why he needed to be here. I thought he by far was the most well-utilized character of this movie. He was very funny. He was just a great villain, and he was great. I thought they really gave all the best lines to him. Out of everyone, definitely Will Ferrell was by far the best in this movie. And yes, he was very funny in the first one, but this one especially, because everyone else was just okay, he really did a great job. I thought he really was awesome here. Penelope Cruz's character, I'm not gonna say that she was bad, but to me, she's only in this movie for two reasons. One, to recruit Derek and Hansel, and to be Derek's love interest. That is the only reason why she's in this movie. I really was not a fan of her character. They didn't really do anything that funny with her character. That was the thing with her character. She wasn't funny. There really wasn't anything that funny about her. Sure, she's a fashion model that's now a secret agent, and they do make fun of, like, her tits and things like that, but I just didn't find her character that funny. I didn't think that she was that. I didn't think that she was funny. I didn't think that I mean, I know she was necessary, but they didn't really do anything funny with her character. And since I'm watching a comedy, you should try to do something creative with her, and they really didn't. I gotta say, Kristen Wiig was almost intolerable in this movie. I thought her character was very one note, something out of an Adam Sandler movie. Like, that's how bad her character was. I really thought that she was really bad here. Her character, Alexandria, the big joke with her is that we're not supposed to understand a word that she's saying, which I could understand actually pretty well what she was saying. I didn't think her accent was that bad, but it was really stupid after a while. One joke, fine, but it was the same joke over and over again, and it really didn't work for me at all. I didn't really think that she was that funny. They could have given her a lot more better stuff to do, and they really didn't, and I was not a fan of her. So Kristen Wiig really did not work for me in this movie. They do way too much with Sting as well, definitely. There's this ridiculous thing with Sting that I thought was really dumb. Cyrus Arnold, though, I thought was actually pretty good as Derek Zoolander's son. When we eventually meet him, I thought he did an okay job. He was definitely fine. Kyle Mooney as Don Atari, he was really funny. I actually really did like his character. They did some really stupid stuff with his character, but I think he really embraced this movie, that things need to be a bit ridiculous. The problem is Kristen Wiig's character is just a bit too ridiculous, as well as Justin Theroux's character. I thought as well it was very ridiculous, and the cameos as well in this movie. Here's the thing with the cameos. Look, some of them are very funny, but a lot of them are just, oh, look, it's this person, and it's funny because, oh, they're in this part of the movie. And it's not really funny when you don't do anything with them. You know, they didn't really do anything with half of these characters, and that's why they weren't that funny to me. You know, there are literally countless cameos throughout this entire movie, but just some of them aren't memorable because they don't do anything with them except for, oh, here they are. It really didn't do anything for me. So those cameos were completely uninspired, and like I said, the cast definitely tried. They definitely tried, and the directing as well by Ben Stiller. He definitely tried to make a good sequel. It's just the tone of this movie as well. I really felt there was a little bit. It was too weird. I mean, the first one was weird and eccentric, but that's why it was funny. This one took it up a notch to where it was just like, I don't really know what I'm watching. At points, I didn't really know what I was watching. It felt very strange, and the tone overall I thought was pretty good to this movie. I thought it was fine what he did. I liked that they still didn't take it too seriously. I thought that was well done. But the directing, I thought was, definitely well done. The tone wasn't bad. The screenplay is the main problem here. The movie itself is just not that funny. There really aren't that many funny jokes. And the plot in general, I thought was really, really dumb, honestly. I mean, you guys know that to me, I mean, when you have a character, it's very much like Austin Powers, Spy Who Shagged Me. Probably my biggest problem in this movie is like Austin Powers, because you guys know my biggest problem with Austin Powers is that you have this love interest that seems like they're going to be a big part of the series, and then they just kill them off. They do pretty much the same exact thing with Christine Taylor's character. They kill her off in this movie. It's completely unnecessary, and I really found that to be really dumb. We didn't need that in this movie. You could have kept her on. You didn't need to kill her off. I thought that was really stupid. And the only reason she was killed off is so we could make Penelope Cruz the love interest, and that's why that didn't work for me, and that really ruined a large part of the movie. And once that happened, I'm like, really? That's where we're going with this? And there's this huge conflict between Derek and Hansel that I thought was really dumb, and there are points where they did take it seriously, and I'm like, really, you're taking this seriously? That didn't work for me at all. I really wasn't a fan of it. I also didn't feel they really did much with Derek trying to reconnect with his son. They definitely tried to, but there was just so much other stuff with the FBI, with like the secret agents and things like that, which I really couldn't follow. I mean, there was so much going on that was very hard to follow at points, and that was definitely a problem for me. It was hard to figure out really where they were trying to go with that, because there were times where I'm like, I don't really know where you're going with this. Like, I really couldn't tell what was going to happen with certain plots, and maybe that's a good thing, but with a movie like this, it should be easy to tell, and sometimes it really wasn't easy to tell where they were headed. So that was definitely also a problem for me. But I will say the third act of this movie is really funny. The third act is really funny. It's actually pretty intense. It's really interesting. And that whole part of the movie, I definitely really did enjoy. Everything else I thought was very unnecessary. The first two acts to this movie, they're not boring. Let me just say that right off the bat. The first two acts of this movie are not boring. They're just not very good. I mean, especially for a sequel, they're not very good. They're definitely better than they're definitely, the third act is definitely more close to what this movie should have been. Definitely. I think the third act's really good, and the first two acts really aren't that great, I have to say. So, that's really how I feel about the writing. The cinematography, they definitely had more of a budget here. You can tell they had a lot more of a budget, and that really did kill the movie. A lot of the times, the movie's very style over substance. Like, they just think weird things are funny, and it's really not. I think the points, the cinematography really did ruin a lot of things this movie. The movie really did go very over the top in terms of, like, CGI and things like that. There's CGI in this movie, and it's very strange, and I don't understand it. And there's only so far you can go. I mean, there's a difference between quirky and just plain old weird. I mean, quirky and eccentric, that's fine, but just weird in general, it's not funny. It's just weird. And if there's no punchline, then it's really not anything that great. And I really thought the cinematography really, well, looked good, really did kill the movie because they had more of a budget and they used it way too much, I have to say. A lot of the funny jokes are in the trailer, definitely. Especially in the first two acts. You've seen really all the funny jokes in the trailer. I definitely will say that. The score was fine. Really didn't have a problem with the score. The editing. The movie was never boring. I'll say that right now. The movie was never boring. I was into it for most of the time. It just wasn't that funny. I'm like, I'm really not laughing much, and I'm quite disappointed. And I have to say that I definitely do feel bad for them, because I think they really genuinely tried to make a sequel. I don't think this was a cash grab. If it was a cash grab, they would have made this 2 years ago. This definitely was not a cash grab. This was something they really tried because they knew the fans wanted it. They knew that a lot of people love Zoolander. And plus, when Zoolander first came out, a lot of people did not like it, and it really wasn't seen by a lot of people. But then, as, time has grown on, Zoolander's one of people's favorite comedies. Some people say it's one of the greatest comedies of all time, things like that. I really think they genuinely tried. It just didn't really work in the end, and that's why this movie in general really wasn't as great as it could have been, unfortunately. But like I said, the third act of this movie, I definitely really did enjoy. I really did start to get into it. I enjoyed that a lot. There were just a lot of things that really didn't work here. They do this whole thing with like Adam and Eve, which really didn't work for me. I gotta say, it really just some of it was just plain old weird. But Magatu, everything with Will Ferrell, he really was funny, and I really like where they went with his character. There's definitely not going to be a Zoolander 3. I'm going to say that right now. And overall, guys, I didn't dislike this movie. I want to say right now, I did not dislike this movie, but it definitely just wasn't as funny as it could have been, mainly because the third act was so funny, because of the stuff they did with Will Ferrell. Overall, I gotta give Zoolander 2 a 2.5 out of 5, or a C minus. Unfortunately, it is not as great as it could have been. The first one, by the way, I would definitely probably give like an A minus or a B plus, definitely something like that. But definitely Zoolander 2, just stick with the first one. If you haven't seen the first one, check out the first one. This one's really not necessary. There are some good things about it, but a lot of the stuff in this movie really didn't work for me very much at all. It really is just a sequel that came too far, and they could have done more with, and especially since it took so long, that's one of the reasons why it didn't work as well for me. But overall, guys, I'm not sure you guys saw Zoolander 2. If you have seen it, love to hear your thoughts on it, and we'll see you guys in my next video, which will be for tonight's episode, Legend of Tomorrow, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.